Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Dr. Yuan, will you lead us in the flag salute?
Yes, everyone please stand. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Yuan. At this time, I'd like to see who is present. Ms. Gutierrez?
I am present.
Mr. Ramirez?
Present.
Ms. Cabrera?
Present.
Ms. Magaña?
Present.
And I'm present as well. Dr. Garland, are there any modifications to this evening's agenda?
Yes, good evening. Good evening, Madam President. There is a modification to the agenda. Item number 7F. A copy has been provided to the board and a copy has also been uploaded to the website for the public.
Thank you, Dr. Garland. Ms. Copado, are you making any recommendations to make modifications to the agenda?
Thank you, President Uribe. Yes, I am, President Uribe. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2, subsection B, subsection 2, we are making a recommendation that the closed session item D of tonight's agenda be amended to add 2 matters instead of 1. Specifically, pursuant to the Government Code section I just cited to, there is a need to take immediate action on a matter, and 2, the need for the action came to the district's attention subsequent to the agenda being posted for today's meeting. We do need a 2/3 vote of the board members being present, approving that item to be added to the agenda, or if we have less than 2/3 of the board members present, a unanimous vote from the members present to make that amendment to the agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Copado. Is there a motion to approve the agenda with the modifications as indicated by Dr. Garland and Ms. Copado?
Motion.
I'll second that. Roll call vote. Ms. Gutierrez?
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez?
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera?
Aye.
Ms. Magaña?
Aye.
And an aye from me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, I'd like to call on Mr. Ellingson for a fiscal audit report. I'm sorry, fiscal audit presentation.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, our community and executive cabinet. Tonight, we have our auditor, Christy White. Ms. White is here tonight to present our annual audit report, as well as our bond audit reports. Ms. White?
Well, good evening, Madam Board President, fellow board members, Superintendent. It's a pleasure to be here. I hope everyone can hear me fine. I have a presentation tonight both on the district's financial and compliance audit, as well as the 3 bond audits, measures M, EE, and GS. So I'm going to share my screen to share with you the presentation. Okay, and hopefully everyone can see that fine.
Yes, thank you.
So this was a really challenging year, I'm sure, for everybody, and the audit also had challenges, but we overcame them in terms of working remotely together to get the audit done. And the state did extend the deadline this year, which is why I'm here in April talking to the board and not January as normal. But I'm glad that we were able to get it done, and I really appreciate the staff's help in all of that. So let's start by talking about the audit scope and requirements. As you know, state and federal law requires the annual audit, as well as the Proposition 39 bond audits. And the bond audits are both a financial and a performance audit. The audit focuses on both the financial amounts that the board reports to the county and to the state in your unaudited actuals, as well as compliance with all kinds of federal and state laws and regulations. So it's very comprehensive. You know, it doesn't just include the business office. We also look at categorical programs, you know, the federal programs, attendance at the school sites, and all kinds of other departments get involved in the audit. The audit is driven by the K-12 audit guide and the requirements that are in there, as well as the federal audit guide. So the impact of COVID on the audit, we had to conduct the audit virtually. So normally we would be on site conducting it, but we have a secure portal. We use video conferencing as you're doing. And so we were able to get all of the data that we needed in order to conduct the audit. There were some new audit requirements added, and there's more coming in this next year because of the Federal CARES Act monies. Of course, distance learning this year, there's a lot of new requirements on how we test the engagement of the students in distance learning. I talked about the audit due date being extended, but we don't expect for it to be extended for this coming year's audit. So hopefully you'll see me in January, a little bit earlier. Here are just some examples of the audit tests that we do. You know, we verify all of your account balances, for example, the cash and county treasury, all of your material liabilities, long-term debt, capital assets. And we do extensive sampling of your payroll and cash disbursements, cash receipts throughout the district. A lot of focus is on construction and, you know, bid requirements, contracts, paying contractors, and then all of the other funds that you have, whether it's child development, cafeteria, and the like. So again, very extensive. We also help the district to draft the financial statements and the notes in accordance with governmental accounting principles. So just kind of a financial summary. Obviously, we're looking back at June 30th, 2020, so ways back, but the general fund had a little over 125 million in ending fund balance, and included in that was a little over 10 million in unassigned reserves. Plus, the district did meet the 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. ADA was down a bit, as you probably are well aware, about 4% over the prior year. But we had no going concern issues noted in our report. In terms of other funds, the building fund is the most major fund that you have other than the general fund, and there was about 60 million in ending fund balance as of June 30th, 2020. And then the student funds, they're included in our audit, and you had about $500,000 in student funds. Next year, the accounting treatment for that's going to be a little bit different, but we'll still audit the funds. In terms of compliance, we look at your internal controls and we test compliance in many different areas. State compliance includes attendance, teacher credentialing, instructional time, grade span adjustment, and so forth. And then in federal, this year we looked at special education. We kind of rotate what we audit, and this year it was special education. And then we had the bond audits. So, summary of the audit findings. There are 3 opinions in the district's audit report. One is on the financial statements, one is on state compliance, one is on federal, and all 3 receive the best opinion that you can receive, an unmodified opinion. So the district has a track record of having a clean audit, unmodified opinion over the last few years. So that's to be commended. We did have a few findings, but none that had any apportionment consequence to them. Not that they shouldn't be addressed, but none in which, you know, there would be any monies or amount due back to the state or federal government. So the areas where we had findings included ASB. It seems like we have that every year, but we do audit different ASBs every year, and there's always some improvements that can be made in their controls, and we recommend, you know, training that goes on annually. The GAM limit, there was just a little miscalculation and had no apportionment significance, but it is an audit area where we're required to test. And then the last area was independent study and kind of managing the contracts. Overall, there were no question caused, but probably a little better documentation of some of those independent study contracts needed to be taken place. And then lastly, we look at the prior year findings and see whether you corrected them. So last year you had one on the district credit card controls, and that was implemented and corrected. And then the ASB, again, finding that we seem to have every year, but some of those were implemented as well. And then in terms of the bond audit reports, we have the 2 opinions, the financial statement and performance. all three of the bond audits, and we audited them separately, had unmodified best opinion that you can receive, and we had no findings in the bond audit. So overall, good year, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. White. I apologize. I was trying to unmute myself, but for some reason I couldn't. Does the board have any questions or comments for Ms. White? Okay, hearing no questions. Thank you, Ms. White. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to move on to number 4, and I would like to call on Mr. Ellenson.
Thank you again, Madam President. Tonight, we bring the gentleman from Fieldman Rope and Associates, Mr. Adam Bauer and Mr. Jason Chung, to discuss the Go Bond refunding options available to the district to reduce costs as it relates to our community and to bondholders. Mr. Bauer.
Great, thank you. Can folks see the what's called bond refinancing update on the screen right now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Great, well, thank you for your time. Both Jason Chung and myself, Adam Bauer, serve as your financial advisor, otherwise known as municipal advisor. And one of the things that we work on is tracking your existing debt to see if you can refinance that, in this case, to provide taxpayer savings. And so I've been asked to keep this very brief and in less than 3 minutes here. I'll walk through 6 slides, but I'm also available for questions should you have any after that. So as far as the executive summary goes, the district has 3 general obligation bond measures that both the board and voters have approved. That's the 1998, 2004, and 2016. When these bonds are sold, investors don't want these bonds refinanced away from them too early, so they typically have something called a 10-year call protection. And so generally after about 7 or 8 years, if interest rates are low enough, you can refinance by putting money in escrow until that 10-year period. There's 3 series of bonds that should be considered right now, and those are listed down there below. The 2004 measure with the 2009, but rather than read those, to be sensitive on time, I'll move more quickly. On the last bullet point, there's just how much does this save? Currently, the bonds that we are looking at have an interest rate of about 5.48. The reason why they're savings is we could refinance them something close to 1.91. This generates about 3.3 million. Now, all this money goes to the taxpayers. The district cannot pull this money out for any other purpose other than providing taxpayer savings. So on the next slide, what we're showing you here is to the left is absent the when COVID-19 was discovered in the United States, a major pandemic, you saw interest rates spike, but they really have been low since then. And that's the takeaway from this chart. And like I said, due to time, I'll move quickly here. On slide 4, what we're highlighting is the refunding savings. These bonds have maturities going from 2001 to 2033. And theirs has a 3.3 million. If you look at the chart, the table to the left, but the column that says savings, that gives you the overall savings, but it's also important to see what those savings look over time, so we net present value that. The table to the far right there, we show kind of the key statistics. In green there, we show the gross savings again, which match that table. There's an important percentage there. Typically, if you have opportunity to refinance over 5% net present value savings, it's worth considering. And you can see there we're at 8.45. Now, finally, we have a schedule that we've laid out here. We are presenting to you this evening. If you were to give us direction to move forward, we'd come back with a resolution on June 2nd, then get a rating. And then finally, we'd also likely need to take into consideration some of the county processes that they need to undertake. So we have that built in with a closing on July 14th. So I promise to keep this under 3 minutes. I'm at 3 minutes, 2 seconds, and I am available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a couple questions. Thank you, Mr. Bauer, for all the information. Just a quick question. Are we refinancing all three bonds or just the first two under the 10-year mark?
So there's what we've really looked at is two of them that work the best. We would want flexibility to look at the third. So it's just a portion of the bonds, and we have up to three that should be looked at, but two that look really positive.
I got it. Thank you. That's all.
Madam President, this is Bill McGuire, your new fiscal advisor from LACO. Not fully introduced to you yet, but do have a couple comments for you. Certainly, as your new fiscal analyst, I want to appreciate the time that you've given us to review this. That is not for action tonight, and we're here to help you move this forward and appreciate the opportunity to review this. As you know, the Los Angeles County Office of Education has been opposed to any bond issuance or anything doing with bonds in the last couple of years, and we're here to work with Adam and the team and the new interim superintendent and your interim associate superintendent of business to help facilitate this. But we appreciate the extra time. And the one question I would ask is, what is the total cost of issuance on this deal?
So Jason, are you able to, do you have the cost of issuance in front of you?
Yes, so based on these savings projections, we assume a cost of issuance of roughly $250,000. That is a very conservative estimate. Certainly, we expect, given the size, it would warrant only the cost of one rating agency, but also would include costs of bond counsel, legal counsel, our firm as well, as along with other ancillary expenses.
Thank you.
Mr. McGuire, do you have additional questions?
I do not. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, thank you, Mr. Bauer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chung. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to move on to legal comments, and I would like to call on Dr. Garland to introduce Mr. Bill McGuire.
Thank you. Good evening, President Uribe, members of the board, fellow cabinet members, and our community. Los Angeles County of Education is still providing a fiscal advisor for Monteville. We're lucky to have Mr. McGuire with us. Mark Scarvana has the highest regards for him, and welcome, Mr. McGuire.
Thank you, Dr. Garland. Welcome, Mr. McGuire. We're looking forward to working with you. And if the board would like to say any words or comments, you are more than welcome to.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes.
Well, I also would like to welcome Mr. McGuire. Thank you so much, and we look forward to working with you.
Likewise, just want to echo what my colleagues have been saying. Welcome to MUSD, and we look forward to working with you.
And from my point of view, I just want to thank all of you for your public service. This has been the most difficult year public schools have ever had, and very, very difficult for board members. I'm a fiscal advisor in other districts and are currently in one in Northern California. And I know how hard your job is and how hard you've been working to do everything you can for all of your stakeholders in the district, and look forward to helping all of us get to that next level.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire. Okay, moving on to public comment. Ms. Copado, do we have any to be read?
Thank you, President Uribe. Yes, we do have one comment in total for tonight's meeting. Good evening, school board members. I'm a parent of 3 elementary students at La Merced. Last month, the superintendent spoke about giving another update for the community regarding the reopening of schools. With his release, I would like to know if this has affected progress for reopening schools. Seeing that surrounding school districts have reopened, I would like to know what plan the MUSD has in place. Please keep us informed of the actions the district has taken and is currently taking to make our schools safe for reoccupancy. The actions MUSD takes directly impact all families as we continue to figure out work and personal arrangements for our children. Thank you for your time, Sandra Rodriguez, and that concludes public comments.
Thank you, Ms. Copado. Okay, at this time, we will be moving on.
Madam President, if I may, we have 5 people who called in. Would you like to take them
yes.
now?
Yes, I apologize.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Ewan.
All right, I'm going to start off, top of the list is Christine Demas, and her topic is welcoming $10 million gift and transparency. So give me a moment while I call her. All right, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, President Uribe and Board of Education. Welcome back, everybody. I wanted to circle back to the March 30th board meeting and just talk to the Board of Education and thanking you for your brave act in choosing Dr. Scarvana as the interim superintendent for the Monteville Unified School District. I think that your choice was spot on, and I'm sure you all did a lot of homework on this, and it was a very tasking decision, which I want to say, in all honesty, I don't always agree with choices that are being made, but I do, you guys, elected officials. So I just want to say with that, Dr. Scarvana is just a wonderful individual, and I'm sure that you guys know a lot about his background. 25 years of K through 12 experience. 12 of those included, a superintendent of Baldwin Park Unified School District, and he was instrumental when LACO appointed him as fiscal advisor after the 2016 bond, Measure GS bond fiasco, and also the adult ed. So I'm happy, not just me, but a lot of public members want to give you kudos for making this look, very, you made this very important, and I want to thank you. But moving on to some of my concerns. Number one, I attended the CBOC meeting and found out that this committee has not had quorum since June of 2019. And this is not this isn't promising if the district decides to request more bond money. Oversight will be in question, and with a project going on as big as the one at Bell Gardens Elementary, you would think that there would be, the right type of oversight. The second item, circling back to the developer that is giving the district $10 million. I'm also concerned about the oversight as well here. And with a lot of the questions that still needs to be answered with regards to how to determine the 3 schools, transparency is very important here. The last item, and tonight and the last few board meetings, all through March at least, you've been able to successfully put recordings on YouTube. But
yes.
My question is,
please notify her that 3 minutes are up?
I'm sorry, 3 minutes have been passed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Have a nice evening. Bye.
All right, next we have Marlene Ramirez, who's going to be calling about the reopening plan. All right, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, members of our Monteville Unified Board. I'm calling because I'm concerned about the pace of our reopening plan. I'm concerned about the survey that was sent out to all parents that has no end date. A survey in which most of the parents don't agree with any of the options. There was no option for us to leave a comment. And so it just seems that the survey that was sent out doesn't even address recent guidelines by the CDC and what our neighboring districts are using. It would have been an appropriate survey for reopening in the spring, which we were not given a chance to give our opinion on. It was a decision made and it was never revisited. And so I'm echoing our disappointment that we were not part of the conversation to bring back a vote to reopen in the spring, at least for our younger children, kindergarten, which is the most important year, the foundation. At least some other districts like Alhambra are opening up for enrichment, bring the kids back into the campus to some capacity, because the suffering that they are feeling right now is very detrimental. And I'm not talking in capacity that I'm looking for a babysitter for my child, because I have no issue in that department. But I see our children are suffering social and emotionally, and they are just so tired of looking at the screen. If we can at least offer some on-campus activity enrichment of one day, even if it's for 5 weeks left in the school year, it would have satisfied us to some capacity, especially at a time when our city is blasted with banners and billboards of charter schools that are coming into our school. And so now parents are looking the other way. We feel like you are taking us for granted that we're going to come back to Monteville unified, but you're not including us in this conversation about the reopening. We just feel very disappointed with the pace of our reopening plan. And I don't know what's going to be presented tonight, but I hope that when we go back in the fall, it's going to look like 5 days a week and not 1 or 2 days, because we are so behind from other districts. Imagine how our children feel seeing all of the neighboring districts, their cousins and their friends, all going back to school at least 1 or 2 times a week. And they have to stay at home. We were not given a choice. I'm just wanting to express my disappointment in how we're going to reopen our schools thus far. Thank you.
All right, next we have Andres Perez, who's going to talk about Safe Drinking Water Project. Go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you can start. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, members of the Cabinet and board members. As you may know, this pandemic has brought about health risks that were not experienced before March of last year. Due to this whole situation, it would be necessary to have ways of enforcing social distancing and health precautions, especially when it involves the current water content at school. So with this, we, the Green Pathway from Beauregard High School, would like to explain our proposal to you. A hydration station or bottle filling stations we're proposing will filter out the necessary pollutants to protect the health of students across the district. Being able to get drinking water without touching contaminated surfaces is very important. The solutions we have found for water systems are LK's Easy H2O bottle filling stations, which come with a green filter, Halesley tailored bottle filling stations, which include a visual filter monitor, and Oasis systems, which have the option of including a UVC LED at the spout for sanitation purposes. Oasis systems also include everything that has been mentioned so far in other systems. These systems can range from about $600 to $2,000. To avoid any interaction with regular drinking fountains, we ask that each school provide students with reusable stainless steel bottles so students can fill their bottles at a bottle filling station. The hydration stations are touchless, so there is less of possibility of spreading any microbes. This way, everyone feels comfortable and safe going back to school. If people were to lose their bottles, ASB or clubs can sell reusable bottles to the students and staff. We also think that using reusable bottles would be a better option since many plastic bottles end up on the streets or in the ocean when not properly disposed of and can harm marine life. We have found that COVID-19 virus is not likely to enter a water stream. However, if this were to occur, standard filtration will remove it and make it safe to drink. It is thus important to keep the maintenance at a consistent schedule to keep the students and faculty members safe. Part of the maintenance will be changing the filter every 3 to 6 months and to have the machine cleaned 2 to 4 times a day. The maintenance must be done because the virus can remain on stainless steel and plastic for about 3 days, regardless if it is hands-free or not. For most bottle filling stations, the life expectancy is approximately 10 years. The COVID-19 virus has not been detected in treated drinking water. Water treatment plants use filters and disinfectants to remove or kill any microbes. The Environmental Protection Agency regulates the water treatment plants to ensure that treated water is safe to drink. Drinking water in schools should be cleaned, or the pipes that where the water comes from should be treated. The pipes of the water fountains are becoming old and sometimes falling apart. The rust has overtaken the actual pipes and has gone into the water. It will not be safe to drink the water if it is not replaced. Thank you for your time and listening to our proposal.
All right, next we have Gloria Cunningham, who's calling about Wilcox Elementary School. All right, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, board members, cabinet, and guests attending from home. My name is Gloria Cunningham, and I am a teacher at Wilcox Elementary School. On March 24th, we had a safety walkthrough in preparation for reopening Wilcox that was attended by the superintendent, many assistant superintendents, and stakeholders of our school community. During the visit, I asked about the air ventilation system. I was told by an assistant superintendent that the district was currently in the process of getting inspections and or estimates to see if the current systems were able to be upgraded or if they needed to be replaced. 1 month after our meeting, I have asked if the inspections/estimates have been completed, and specifically, what was the outcome for Wilcox? I have watched the interviews of Austin Butner, the superintendent of our USD, saying that they have upgraded their ventilation system to near hospital grade. Those are his words, not mine. And I have a picture of air scrubbers that were purchased for each classroom in the El Rancho Unified School District. To date, I have not received a response to my email. In addition, our follow-up walkthrough has been canceled. I say again, as I said in our initial meeting, the ventilation systems are my top priority. You see, the students and teachers can get our own masks if necessary. We can also carry our own hand sanitizer. What we cannot do is climb on the roof and replace the ventilation. Neither the students nor the staff can upgrade or replace air filters or provide maintenance to the current system. Now, I understand that we have a superintendent issue, but board, we do not have a board issue. You, the board, are ultimately charged with the safety of everyone at Wilcox, students, staff, and our community. You see, each of us runs the risk of taking COVID home to our families. Students, while not showing symptoms, may take this virus to their babysitters, their parents, their grandparents. We had a student at Wilcox who lost 3 family members in her home to this disease because they live in a multi-generational home. So I ask again, what is the status of the inspections to the ventilation system? Specifically, what was the outcome for Wilcox? And now I add, board members, with all due respect, what are you, the board, doing in preparation for opening Wilcox? Are we starting over again because we have a different superintendent? Because our follow-up meeting scheduled for May 17th has been canceled, not postponed, due to a change in superintendent. Secondly, What is your plan D in case the upgrades to the replacements are not complete by August 16th, our start date in summer? I truly hope to receive an answer to my questions this time. I drive to Wilcox every day that I am allowed to be there, and I want so much for our students to return, but not if
All
it's
right,
safe.
thank you. That was your 3 minutes.
To have an estimate or a plan.
And the last one is Jeremiah Aviles, and the topic is youth voter registration.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Jeremiah Aviles, and I'm a senior at the Applied Technology Center High School. During the past few years here at ATC, I have gotten involved in a variety of events and organizations, including one group called Leadership Experience Opportunities, or LEOs for short. As a LEO, it was our mission to help fill the need throughout our community, and after participating in a variety of events, my eyes were open to just how many students from MUSD were actually in need of that support. Over the past year, as a community, we have learned many valuable lessons, but I think the most valuable one was the power we have together when we turn out and vote for people who best represent our values as a society. This is why I truly believe it is important for school districts everywhere to arm their students with resources and information they need to vote. If young people everywhere elected officials to represent them better, underserved communities just like ours would get much needed resources for students like us who need them. Everybody knows that you are not allowed to vote until you turn 18. However, what a lot of people don't know is that you can pre-register to vote starting at 16. With that said, only about 10% of eligible 16 to 17-year-olds are pre-registered to vote in LA County, which makes it less likely they will actually vote when they turn 18. As a district, we have the power to begin bringing that 10% up, which is why today I'm asking you to consider adopting a district-wide policy modeled by the Civic Center to encourage youth voter registration in MUSD high schools. Some of the highlights of this policy include adopt and implement district-wide policies supporting pre-18 registration, provide educational programming that informs students about eligibility requirements and how to register, devote adequate classroom or advisory time for students to register to vote twice a year, designate a faculty member responsible for providing voter registration forms to students and student outreach coordinators, and partner with state and county officials and/or non-government organizations for training, resources, and guidance with nonpartisan voter registration efforts. With this policy in place, MUSD students will become more likely to not only vote, but make informed choices on how to vote when the time comes. This is an important decision that will impact the future of all MUSD students, and if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them, or I can connect you with representatives at the Civic Center. Also, the Civic Center reached out to the district in an email with this policy, so you may also refer to that. Thank you.
And that concludes our call-in public comments.
Thank you, Dr. Ewan. Okay, at this time, legal counsel, do you have an announcement to make regarding closed session item?
Yes, thank you, President Uribe and members of the board. At this time, we are recommending that we recess into closed session to discuss specifically closed session agenda item A, which reads closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiator, district's designated representative, Norma Copado, general counsel, unrepresented employee, interim superintendent of schools.
Thank you, Ms. Copado. I move to recess into closed session. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Ms. Gutierrez?
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez?
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera?
Aye.
Ms. Magaña?
Aye.
And an aye from me as well. That motion is carried. We will now recess into closed session. Okay, it is now 6:58 and I would like to reconvene this meeting. At this time, I'd like to see who is present. Ms. Gutierrez,
Present.
Mr. Ramirez,
Present.
Ms. Cabrera,
Present.
Ms. Pagana,
Present.
and I'm present as well. Legal counsel, can you please provide a closed session report out?
Yes, thank you, President, members of the board, and members of the cabinet. At 6:45, we convened into closed session. Present was the following board members: Board Member Gutierrez, Ramirez, Cabrera, Magaña, and Uribe. Momentarily, Mr. Bill McGuire joined us into closed session at 6:46 and exited at 6:46. A briefing was provided to members of the board specifically concerning closed session agenda item A. No reportable action was taken, nothing further to report. And for the record, the discussion ensued an open session item, which is item 9A-12, which is for review and consideration before the board in tonight's open session meeting. And that concludes my report, and closed session discussions concluded at 6:57 on this item.
Thank you, Ms. Copado. At this time, we're going to consider item 9A-12, ratification and approval of agreement, interim superintendent of schools from the consent agenda, and I would like to call on legal counsel.
Thank you, President Uribe, members of the board, and members of the executive cabinet. I am here to discuss item 9A-12, which is the ratification and approval of agreement of interim superintendent of schools. I, along with Ms. Zipir Hakopian, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, worked on this action item. The item presented before you is pursuant to Government Code Sections 53262 and 53060, is a executive services and consulting agreement with Capital Advisors Group to have Dr. Mark Scavarna serve as the interim superintendent of schools for the Monteville Unified School District. The main terms are this is for a 2-year term effective March 30, 2021 through June 30, 2023. The compensation is not to exceed $200,000 in a fiscal year, with reimbursement of actual necessary expenses in performance of his agreement. So at this time, unless there are questions, the recommendation is to ratify and approve the following motion, that the Board of Education ratifies the attached consulting agreement with Capital Advisors Group, LLC, for Dr. Mark Scavarna to serve as interim superintendent of schools effective March 30, 2021, or as soon as possible thereafter, and hereby approves the consulting agreement as presented with compensation not to exceed $200,000 in a fiscal year and will be reimbursed for all actual and necessary travel expenses in his performance of his employment agreement. The agreement will be on file in Human Resources.
Thank you, Ms. Copado. With that, I move to approve this item. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Ms. Gutierrez,
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez,
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera,
Aye.
Ms. Magaña,
Aye.
and an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. Okay, at this time, we will now move on to our discussion and action items. At this time, we're going to consider item 7A, audited financial statements and other financial information. And I would like to call on Mr. Ellingson.
Thank you again, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight, we heard from our auditor, our external auditor, Christy White from Christy White and Associates. And as you can see, we received an unmodified opinion, which is the highest opinion you can receive. And I recommend that the board adopts, acknowledges, and receives the annual audit report as filed by our auditors, Christy White and Associates.
I would like to move in to approve 7A.
Second.
Roll call vote, Ms. Gutierrez,
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez,
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera,
Aye.
Ms. Magaña.
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, we're going to consider item 7B, bond audit reports by Christy White Associates, and I would like to call on Mr. Ellingson.
Thank you again, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight, continuing with the board acknowledging and receiving the financial audit reports by our external auditor, Christy White. We recommend that the board acknowledges receipt of audit reports for measures EE, measure M, and measure GS for the bonds.
Thank you, Mr. Ellingson. I move to receive these reports. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Ms. Gutierrez?
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez?
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera?
Aye.
Ms. Magaña?
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, we're going to consider item 7C, and I would like to call on Dr. Garland.
Good evening, President Uribe, members of the board, fellow cabinet members, and our Montebello community. The comprehensive school safety plans are required to be approved by the governing board each year. Here to discuss the process of the comprehensive school safety plan creation and the information the board received from our office is Mr. Rege, who oversees district safety. Mr. Rege?
Thank you, Dr. Garland, and good evening, Madam President Madrigal Uribe, members of the board, Interim Superintendent of School, Marcia Cabarna, members, members of the board, members of cabinet, colleagues, and our MUSD communities. Our comprehensive safe schools plan is developed by our school site councils for every single school, or a safety committee, which is comprised of the principal, members of our associations, our teaching staff, our classified staff, parents of a student that attends the school. And each year they are modified and they are edited and they are approved before March of every single year. And in turn, it moves to our Board of Education, which all of you have received for approval for every single school. Another piece of our comprehensive safe schools plan includes all the information for our schools, our assessment of crime, programs, strategies, and action plans associated with a comprehensive safe schools plan. All the plans, as mentioned previously, were approved by our school site councils and the safety committee prior to March 1st, which is the requirement. And if there are any questions as far as the process and the procedures, I am available to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez, for being here. Are there any questions from the board?
Excuse me.
If I may, Madam President, in terms of accessing these specific plans, can you share with the community where they can access a specific plan for the school where, you know, they are sending a student? And then I'm also wondering, are these plans translated into other languages so that our community members or parents that don't necessarily, you know, speak or can read it in English can access it too? So it's, I guess, it's two questions.
Okay, thank you for your question, Board Member Cabrera. To answer the first question, all safety plans can be found in the main office or the front office of every single school. There is also a copy available at district office. And now if there is direction, whether it be by our board or by our assistant superintendent, it could be something we can also upload to our website. So it could be available for our community to view.
Madam President, if I may, can we request to have those plans online? What the consensus of the board? I don't know how my colleagues feel with that.
Yes, I'm okay with that.
And also, I think Board Member Cabrera, you wanted translation, right? So if it hasn't been translated, if we can work with that as well, Mr. Reggie.
Absolutely, I can certainly work with our team to get the plans translated.
Thank you.
And subsequently posted on our website as well as the school's websites. But the physical copies are available in student services at district office, as well as the front offices or main offices at every single school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. And with that, I move to approve item 7C. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Ms. Gutierrez,
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez,
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera,
Aye.
Ms. Magaña.
Aye.
And an aye from me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, we're going to consider item 7D, and I would like to call on Ms. Hakopian.
Good evening, Madam President, esteemed board, cabinet members, and our Montebello community. The memorandum of understanding with the Montebello Teachers Association regarding Article 4, hours and assignments, and Article 12, wages are being submitted to include a Head Start associate teacher position within the Montebello Unified School District. The Head Start associate teacher position has been created to better align educational services with our current programming needs and the Head Start performance standards. The associate teacher scope of work will provide additional and specialized instructional support to our full-day classrooms, creating a more cohesive design to the teaching model. The classrooms will be staffed by educators with early education knowledge and expertise that will further enhance the quality of learning for children. This will improve the classroom environment and benefit the program as a whole through increased cohesiveness and the Head Start compliance, which will positively impact student achievement. We recommend the approval of the following motion. Thank you. I invite Dr. Yuen to add to what I just shared if I have missed anything.
Just to give the board some context, the associate teachers help support Head Start in two ways. Number one, program quality. The associate teachers have higher education and credits, and they also hold a certificate to be with students. And then operations. Currently in our full day programs, we have one teacher and two part-time instructional aides. And we know sometimes teachers are absent due to illness, trainings, or personal necessity. And in those instances, either an administrator or an education specialist subs by law and by the licensing requirement. If there is no certificated teacher in that classroom, class cannot operate. So by having an associate teacher and a regular teacher, both credentialed, if someone were to be absent, it would allow the program to continue and also allow continuity of program. So that is why this position is created.
Thank you, Dr. Yuen.
Thank you, Dr. Yuen. Thank you, Ms. Hakopian. I move to approve item 7D. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Ms. Gutierrez,
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez,
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera,
Aye.
Ms. Magaña.
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, we're going to consider item 7E, and I would like to call on Dr. Garland.
Good evening, President Uribe, members of the board, fellow cabinet members, and our community. Insight LA is a nonprofit organization that provides high quality, mindfulness, and compassion practices. Insight LA will provide virtual workshops on reducing stress, cultivating self-compassion, and experiencing peace of mind with our principals and directors. Insight LA personnel is conducting 4 sessions free of charge for this group. These sessions aren't required to be attended and are intended to help support our principals and directors as they lead their school community and departments during this difficult time. I'm happy to answer any questions from the board at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Garland. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Ms. Gutierrez,
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez,
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera,
Aye.
Ms. Magaña.
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. At this time, we're going to consider item 7F, and I would like to call on Dr. Garland.
Good evening again. President Uribe, members of the board, fellow cabinet members, and our community. I am very excited to bring forward this request for approval of a website design and hosting service by Edlio. We began this process a while ago with a request for proposal, or RFP, advertised on February 18th through February 25th, 2021. Proposals were received and evaluated on program elements, program implementation, and cost. EdLeo was deemed the most qualified to meet our district's needs. We formed a committee consisting of parents, association representatives, webmasters, student services personnel, and administrators to evaluate all the proposals. Here with me tonight to answer any questions regarding our new websites is Angel Barnuevo, Jonathan Chen, and Laura Goldberg and her colleague Rodrigo Alarcon from EdLeo. We'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Garland. Are there any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a few comments, questions. I know, Mr. Barnuevo, we've talked about the websites a lot, actually. And I know that each school has their own like website coordinator or their webmaster. Are they still going to be a part of this process and taking care of the changes? Or is EdLeo going to be a part of those changes and we're going to be submitting to them? How is that going to work with interaction with the schools?
Yes, thank you, Board Member Ramirez, for that question. So the short answer is yes to both. So EdLeo is going to design and host it for us, but we will still have our webmasters to do the posting of content and any updated information that needs to be maintained on our websites. So that will still go to our webmasters that are at each and every site.
And so will each webmaster be trained in how to edit the websites without changing formatting and keeping the same styles that are implemented for each school?
Yes, correct. And specifically EdLeo will set up the format for us. And that's actually part of the package that we're looking at. It includes implementation and training for all of our webmasters. And they also have tutorials that we can access in case we lose one of our webmasters mid-year. We'll be able to, catch them up to speed, to kind of continue updating the websites and, continue posting, fresh material.
Thank you.
Madam President, if I may, I have a question.
Yes.
So just for clarification purposes for our audience, can we, Mr. Barnuevo, just explain a little bit about what we're doing? What is this about? We're bringing in, what are we bringing in? How is this different? How is this better? How are students going to benefit? Can we go a little into that for those that maybe haven't had the opportunity to really, know what's going on? Please, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Board Member Magaña, for that question. So yes, as many of you guys have visited our websites, we have several websites throughout our district. Each school has their own website. We have our own district website. So what we're looking to do is potentially, with the actions tonight, change our vendors to a new vendor to host and redesign our websites. So what that will mean for our, communities, our parents, our students is a refreshed look of our websites, a more modernized and updated look. Also ADA compliance for anyone with disabilities accessing our websites. They'll have the ability to listen in and, kind of get a voice of, what is on our websites for those folks with disabilities. But for most folks, it's a common refreshed look. A simplified, hopefully simplified look where they can access the information specifically that they need, right? If you're on our websites now, we have a little bit of a dated look. So we're hoping to refresh that and make the information that is most accessed kind of up front and center so that folks can get that to it more easily. And also make it, more mobile friendly. As we know now, more folks are accessing websites on their mobile phones or mobile devices. So we want to make sure our websites are compatible with that as well. So I don't know, Mr. Chen, if you'd have anything to add, or Mr. Alarcon or Ms. Goldberg.
If there are no other questions, can I add one more thing? Yes. I don't know, maybe I missed it, but is EdLeo, or are we going to be able to provide a way to translate the website for our families who don't speak English? Is that something EdLeo is going to be providing for us?
Would you like
Yes.
Ms. Goldberg to answer that? Would you like
Yes,
to mute and
please.
answer?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, that's a great question, sir. And just to confirm, we do include free translation services with all of our packages. The website as well as the communication piece. So rest assured that no matter who is in the community, they'll be able to access and understand the information that you are sending out.
Thank you.
And Ms. Goldberg, if you may really quickly just talk about the communication tools that is part of this package for our parents in our community.
Sure, absolutely. So included with this package is a communication tool which is called Edleo Broadcast. So this is a way to quickly email, text message, and voicemail members of the community. So this will allow you to do, urgent messaging, news events, things of that nature, very quickly and efficiently. And it interacts natively with your website. So you'll be able to update the website, and then you'll be able to do a quick message right after. So this will be a very efficient way to send out urgent messaging. We think it's an excellent resource for you in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Ms. Cabrera, I believe you have a question.
It's more of a comment when you mentioned this ability to be able to email, especially text, because we know that that is a way to get a hold, especially of our parents. It just got me really excited. So thank you for that. And I'm also very excited to hear about the translation. So it's just wanting to share my excitement.
Thank you. Yes, and as I'm sure as we, at some point return to school, we're going to try to capture more of that as our parents come through, our campuses, to be able to physically capture some of that and build a bigger database so we can use that to the fullest extent.
Thank you. If there's no further comments or questions, is there a motion to approve item 7F?
I have a quick comment before. I just wanted to say I'm really happy to bring Edleo into our team. This is something I have been talking to staff about and trying to advocate to uplift our websites, to bring in more accessibility, easy accessibility of information to our website, and just modernize the design. So I'm very excited to bring you all on board. So thank you so much. With that being said, I move to approve.
Thank you. There's a second by Ms. Cabrera, and I'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Gutierrez?
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez?
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera?
Aye.
Ms. Magaña?
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. Thank you, Ms. Goldberg, for being here. Moving on to consent agenda. Are there any items to be pulled for further discussion and/or action? Okay, I have an item to pull. I would like to pull item 9B10. And with that, I move to approve the consent agenda with the modifications as indicated. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Ms. Gutierrez?
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez?
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera?
Aye.
Ms. Magaña?
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. So in regards to item 9B10, I would just like to abstain from that. And there's no further comments. So is there a motion to approve item 9B10? Is there a motion to approve item 9B10?
Motion?
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Ms. Gutierrez?
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez?
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera?
Aye.
Ms. Magaña?
Aye.
And I will be abstaining. That motion is carried. Okay, moving on to, let's see, the first reading of the proposed revisions of Board Bylaw 9270, and I would like to call on Mr. Ellingson.
Good evening again, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight is our first reading on the proposed revisions of Board Bylaws 9270, Conflict of Interest, Exhibit A and B of the Monteville Unified School District. This item will be brought back to the next regular scheduled board meeting for formal adoption by the Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Allenson. I move to approve the first reading of Board Bylaw 9270, Exhibit A and B. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Ms. Gutierrez?
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez?
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera?
Aye.
Ms. Magaña?
Aye.
And an aye from me as well. That motion is carried. Moving on to Board of Education member reports, and I would like to begin with Ms. Cabrera.
Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. I just hope everyone is doing well. A lot still going on in our world, in our country. And so all I want to do is send positive thoughts and energy to everyone, especially everyone in our district, our students. But other than that, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Ms. Cabrera. Ms. Gutierrez?
I just want to start by saying Happy Administrative Professionals Day to all our staff. And I also want to welcome Dr. Skovarna onto MUSD as our interim superintendent. I'm very excited to bring in your skills, your wisdom to move MUSD and continue moving MUSD in the positive direction that we've been moving. So thank you so much, Dr. Mark Skovarna. As some of you may know, he was our previously fiscal advisor. This gentleman knows a lot of information. I'm very excited to learn more from him and just bringing him on board. Thank you so much, Dr. Skovarna, for coming into our school district. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yeah, I just wanted to welcome, Dr. Skawarna. He's great. We've worked a lot in the past before, and I really appreciate his expertise and the knowledge he's going to bring to the district. He's going to be very welcomed. And then I'm not sure if everybody was introduced to Ms. Akopian, our Assistant Super of HR, welcoming her as well. If you haven't spoken with her, she's going to be a great asset to the district, and I'm just happy that we're going to continue moving forward and trying to do our best for our students. Have a good day, everybody. Drink lots of water.
Ms. Magaña?
Well, good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I also would like to welcome Mr. Mark Skavarna, who's sitting right here next to me. So welcome, Mark. Thank you so much. I'm excited. This is an amazing opportunity for us to continue moving our district forward. And I did want to just address everyone about, this new leadership and what our intention is. A lot of times it has been brought up to our attention about how when we campaign, we knock on doors and we claim that we're going to make a change, that we genuinely care for our district, that we will put our students first. And this is us putting our words and our actions together. This is us looking for a new vision, looking for new leadership, for us to continue to put our students first. And I know that we have been going through difficult times, and it is difficult to ask people to trust and to have faith when we've gone through so many times of difficulty. And it is easier to say have faith when things are going great. But I'm asking you all, our staff, our families, our students, to have faith in yourself. Have faith that you are amazing and that you are a strong asset to this team. Our staff, have faith in yourself. Do your work and do it passionately and do it with all your effort behind it, because the students are needing that of all of us. This is why we're moving in such a different direction. We're moving in a positive direction, and we need our staff to continue to trust and to continue to work and to continue to trust us. We ask that, as we make changes, that you are patient, that you are understanding, that you especially follow the chain of command, and that you continue to report to your superiors, and that you continue to follow the structure that has been implemented in order to further assist our organization and to continue pushing our district forward, and most importantly, to help our students continue to move forward. We are all working very hard to reopen our schools. Our student safety is number one. Our staff is extremely important to us. Everyone's life is important to us. We may not be rushing to open like maybe our neighboring districts. That is correct. But we are being very thorough in how we reopen. And we are thinking of every single thing that we can think of in order to assure the safety of our students and our entire MUSD family. I feel confident in Mr. Scavarna and our cabin to continue to work very hard to push and make this district a proud, safe district for everyone to return to. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Magaña. So first and foremost, I just want to welcome Ms. Hakopian. I want to welcome Dr. Mark Scavarna. I know he doesn't like to be called doctor, so I also Mark. But, it's a blessing to welcome you back. You've worked with us in the past, and it was a true honor. It was a blessing to be under your leadership and just to hear your words of knowledge. You carry so much knowledge, you carry so much experience. You have a genuine passion to serve. I think most importantly, you demonstrate so many qualities of a servant leader, and that's what we need. We need people who are willing to serve, not serve themselves. So I just want to thank you for that. Thank you for just, coming to Montebello, and there is a lot going on, and I hear the parents' frustration. As a mom of a, first grader, it's not an easy task to try to have a 7-year-old do online learning. It's hard for, there's a lot of challenges for many of us, but, as Ms. Magaña stated, there is a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And, we are in conversation right now about strengthening our communication. That has definitely something that we can address. I think that soon enough, we will be allowing our parents or stakeholders to be aware of everything that's going on behind the scenes, including changing faucets in the restrooms. There's just so much I can't even, go through the list of what we are doing, but rest assured that we are doing a lot. There's a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of phone calls during the day. There's a lot of meetings, and we are doing this because we genuinely care. So when we come back, we can genuinely say that we have a peace of mind knowing that our students, our staff, our parents will be protected, as from our end, from everything that we can possibly do. So I want to welcome Dr. Mark Scavarna. I also want to just say that, there's been a lot going on. And for everyone who's struggling, I just encourage everyone to reach out to somebody, to send a text, to encourage one another, whatever it may be, just know that we will get through this together, and don't lose hope, don't lose faith. This pandemic has hit many of us in unique ways, but nevertheless, we will get through this, and just keep pressing on. Don't isolate yourself. Just reach out to your family. Just count your blessings. I think that no matter what, there is a lot going on, but there's also other things that we can focus on to just turn our perspective, to count our blessings. And just being here this evening is a blessing for me. So I just thank you guys, just ask you guys to not lose hope. And I also would like to give Dr. Mark Scavarna an opportunity to speak because he is present. So if Mr. Scavarna would like to say a few words, you are more than welcome to.
Thank you very much. And I'll keep it to very few words. I think it's incredibly important when times are difficult, much as what I've listened to tonight, we all know is going on in our country and around the world. It is our duty and our job to make sure that the school district is comfortable in some place that students look forward to going to, and not to have standards that, well, the school's okay and this is okay and that's okay. Not at all. It's incredibly important right now for us to go above and beyond. We will do that. There's not going to be a lot of talk. There's going to be a lot more action. And that's, I think, incredibly important. No one is really interested in any credit. The credit will be when our folks come back to school, the teachers, the classified, incredibly wonderful staff, management folks. But more importantly, I think it's the board's job, certainly my job, to advocate for these folks, these students, these parents. All of us have been frustrated somewhere in our life, whether you're dealing with somebody telling you at a hospital, you can't do this or you can't do that. We have to be a lot more sensitive to the issues with these parents and the tumultuous amount of turmoil that has gone on over the last year. So it's our best interest, and I say this to people a lot of times, we all can remember when that aircraft landed on the Hudson River. That really wasn't subject to dissertation of what do I do. That was subject to, I know what I need to do to get this airplane on the ground or in the water. That's kind of a role that we find ourselves in. It's important, and the board has that vision. We'll follow through with it. We'll get it on the ground. We'll get it safely done. The teachers, the classified, magnificent people, the management folks, I know a lot of them. They're up to it. You folks are. We'll get it all done. It'll be a lot of hard work. Not much time for any patting on the back, just hard work. And thanks again to Bill McGuire, who it's wonderful to have him here. Great guy, incredibly knowledgeable. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. And with that, I move to recess into closed session. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Ms. Gutierrez?
Aye.
Mr. Ramirez?
Aye.
Ms. Cabrera?
Aye.
Ms. Magaña?
Aye.
And an aye for me as well. That motion is carried. We will now recess into closed session.